For the first time since 1960, both Hollywood actors and writers hit the picket lines at the same time. The actors are part of a union called Sag-Aftra, and Sag-Aftra is a merger between two unions: SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and AFTRA, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. They merged back in 2012 and they cover similar areas. Not everyone in this union is under strike. Only the people operating under the contracts covered by the AMPTP, or the American Motion Picture and Television Producers. For the writers, they are under the WGA union, the Writers Guild of America union. Both the actors and writers were not able to come to terms and secure a deal with AMPTP, or as they call them, the producers. AMPTP represents companies such as Amazon, Netflix, Paramount, Sony, HBO, and the Walt Disney Company. Both actors and producers are asking for overall pay increase all around, paired with increased pay with residuals from streaming shows, since streaming platforms don't really have a performance-based residual system in place. AI is also a huge obstacle for both the actors and the writers. The writers don't want AI to be used to write scripts, as it takes away their job, and the actors want restrictions in place for the use of AI acting on their likeness and when AI can be used to use their image, and furthermore how they can be compensated for those images or if they grant approval for the use of their image. Even though both the actors and writers and the producers worked somewhat very hard to reach an agreement, they are still at odds. They are now preparing for a fight by digging in. The studio's offer, according to the Screen Actors Guild, was insulting, and the guilds, according to Disney CEO, are unrealistic. First, I want to discuss what the strike means in the short term for business and the economy. First of all, it's important to understand how the extent of the effect on investors, consumers, and CEOs really depends on how long the strike lasts. However, seeing the length of the strikes already, I believe that it is safe to assume that the broadcast and cable networks will not have fresh scripted TV episodes ready for early fall. This means that streaming services such as Netflix will need to find new content elsewhere, so I believe that there will be a surge of international content available for viewing in the fall. Meanwhile, in the short term, streaming platforms might have business challenges in finding new content for their platforms as a result of the strike. Studios make way more money by producing new TV shows and movies. They make a lot less money when they don't have a new product. So a prolonged period of inactivity is bad for business. On July 19, 2023, Netflix reports are in their odds this year. As a result of the strike, Netflix was able to spend less money on content this year. Netflix furthermore reports 5.9 million new subscribers as people who are no longer able to share the service for free opted to pay for their own accounts. Furthermore, Netflix raised its free cash flow forecast to $5 billion from an earlier estimate of $3.5 billion. Netflix seems to be doing well as of now, and even in some ways be benefiting from the strike. Only time will tell how the streaming services will truly react to the ongoing predicament. Adding to that, Barron writes how as actors go on strike, the entertainment industry no doubtedly will face major challenges. One of these challenges being the end of the pay TV bundles. So as for investors, the best play might be to invest into streaming services. So arguments from both sides arise, and I'm personally very eager to see how events will play out for the streaming services. It's very important to understand that the economy of Los Angeles is also affected. The shutdown of production will hit thousands of workers and businesses that serve the industry. Many overlookable businesses such as hotels, food vendors, location vendors, many people will be affected and out of work. So I believe that it is safe to assume that Los Angeles in the short term and maybe even a long term will bear the effects of the strike. What predictions am I making? Reading how it is the first time since 1960 where both actors and writers strike together, I wanted to see the history of past Hollywood strikes to understand how significant the current strike truly is. Searching, I find the following information. 1960, both actors and writers strike. 1967, AFTRA strikes, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. 1973, writers strike. 1978, Sag-Aftra strikes, although they're not merged back then. 1980, actors, and then 1981, writers. 1985, writers strike for 2 weeks. 1986, actors strike for 14 hours. 1987, directors strike. And 1988, commercial actors and writers strike. 2000, commercial actors strike. 2007 to 2008, writers strike. And now, 2023, both actors and writers strike. I search up the past United States recessions. 1960 to 1961, rolling adjustment recession. 1969 to 1970, the guns and butter recession. 1973 to 1975, the oil embargo recession. 1980 to 1982, the iron and Volcker recession, as well as the double dip recession. 1990 to 1991, the Gulf War recession. 2001, the dot bomb recession, and 2007 to 2009, the Great Recession. Almost every major Hollywood strike lines up with almost every major U.S. economic downturn. So I'm starting to wonder, is this a mere coincidence, or is there something to it? If this is a coincidence, that's easy. We can ignore this and move on. But maybe this has occurred one too many times, and maybe there is a reason. There is the possible explanation how usually the market conditions that would lead to a strike are the same market conditions that would lead to a crash. For example, high inflation rates can indicate an impending recession. With that, the same inflation rates cause people to be less willing to spend money on non-essential goods such as movie tickets or streaming subscriptions. When business is doing well, Hollywood executives might be more willing to give out raises. Contracts are negotiated every 3 years, so it might be that when those negotiations fall on the years when money tightens due to inflation and a fall in business, executives begin to save money wherever they can to save their bonuses. And then, when negotiations aren't met, then writers and actors of Hollywood are more likely to go on strike. The common definition of an economic recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth in GDP. However, the problem is that usually the trigger is pulled too late. Many economists have been predicting a recession since last year. Reading most articles, the information displayed shows that the US economy proves itself to be resilient in hopes to maybe console the Americans that are worried. However, why not deal with the clues that are saying the opposite? US has already seen the failure of 3 major banks in 2023. Banks don't cause a recession, however, they do raise the odds of one. Barron also outlines a couple of indicators that might help shed some light. Number 1, we have the Champagne Index. Champagne sales roar when times are good and slow down when the economy tanks. In the 2007 and 2008 recession, consumers heavily cut back from purchasing champagne. Throughout 2020, champagne sales soared. However, since 2021, imports have tapered, possibly signifying a cutback. Number 2, the Dining Index. Dining out is another indicator. It is clear to understand that people dine out less when they have less money to spend. So for history, dining out has been a clear indicator of the consumer's activity. The Restaurant Performance Index shows that there is a slight slump. However, dining out has become more central to the American lifestyle, so it may be possible of it not being as responsive to markets as in the past. Number 3, in economic downturns, people begin to take advantage of free services such as libraries. In New York, despite many library shutdowns from COVID, there has been an increase of activity in use of library. It's important to understand that just because champagne sales have dropped does not indicate that there will be 100% a recession. The big picture must be taken into account, and looking at it, there are a number of signs that indicate big economic downturns in the future, just as economists have warned us about. The straining years leading up to a recession results in the drop of sales from champagne and dining, which then indicates the next event, which is a possible recession. Therefore, would it be unrealistic if we consider Hollywood strikes as one of those indicators? The straining years leading up to a recession causes a drop in sales at the ticket office as well as in subscriptions. So now executives cut back wherever they can in order to preserve their business. In my opinion, dates have shown time and time again that Hollywood strikes do line up with U.S. recessions. So my question is, are Hollywood strikes a viable indication towards a major recession? And if it is, what are we to expect for the following years?